Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Exercise is Bullshit, which, for those of you who don't know, stands for bodybuilding utilizing logical lifting and scientific heuristics to inform training. So I am joined today by Steve McKinney. Steve owns Fitness and More in Granite City, Illinois. He's been doing this for way longer than I have. He's also an author, a coach, a dad, I believe, a pastor. So many different hats that you wear, Steve, and I'm super excited to have you on and chat with you. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who Steve is?
Well, thanks, Logan. It's a pleasure to be here. I love your intro there, the name of your podcast. I wasn't even aware of that. So I love the acronym, and it's a challenge to remember. But yeah, I've been in this industry for over 30 years. I started in my garage, and still do kind of the same stuff. I refined my process. Recently in January, I think, end of January, released a book that really it did well, but the other thing, it really helped my business. I literally had someone just in last week and said, "Hey, I've read your book and I want to train with you." So it's really been cool with that. But yeah, so I run my gym business, jiu-jitsu black belt. We have a jiu-jitsu school connected to my gym business altogether. My son, I run that with him. I actually run a church as well. I'm a dad and a granddad. And so, yeah, so I stay hopping in the middle of it all.
That's awesome, man. And jujitsu is one of those things. I did martial arts growing up for a long time, so I was in Taekwondo and
Yep.
kind of fell out of it as I got a little bit older. And I tried to do jujitsu for a little bit, but I could not take. And it's one of those things. It's like I was always very good with Taekwondo, with kicking and punching and striking. But the grappling, it's just one of those things. I can only make it like once or twice a week. And if you can't go 5 days a week, and maybe you feel differently about this, you just get lapped by people.
No, yeah,
fast.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Here's the other part of that too. The other part of that with jiu-jitsu, when you're on the ground and you're first starting, you're panicked. And so what happens is your body gets worn out because you're just holding
Fast.
on for dear life. So for me, after doing this for a while, I train with the weights once, maybe twice per week based on how I'm feeling. And then I try to do jiu-jitsu twice a week. But I'm 64, so the recovery is going to be a bit different. And I have learned how to relax, but that takes years of learning.
Yeah.
So my roles are just a very relaxed role, and you'll have those, and I'm careful also in who I roll with. But you get with the wrong guys, you first start, it's like you said, you do get lapped, and it is very intimidating. It's very
I found out very quickly that I couldn't just muscle my way through it. Maybe with other white belts, but once you get past like blue, you have no chance.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. They'll just let you wear yourself out.
Absolutely.
So how did you get into strength training? Kind of tell me a little bit about your journey to opening up Fitness and More. How did that all start for you?
Well, honestly, it was just one of those things where when I was 9 years old, my grandfather bought me a set of weights from Kmart. I don't know if you know what Kmart is, but a lot of people know what it is. And so there's those plastic weights. I bought a Franco Colombo book on how to lift weights. And so I'm lifting weights 2 hours at a time, 6 days a week. I'm not making any gains, but I loved it. I just loved it. So anyway, fast forward, I stayed with it. I played a lot of sports growing up, and the weights always enhanced the sports. And then one of the local gyms was a big gym, closed. And so I converted my garage into a monthly membership gym. After a while of that, I realized that people needed direction, because what I would be doing is like, hey, write me a routine, write me up a diet. So I just realized that people just really didn't know what they were doing, and I was totally into it. And so back then, what I did, Logan, is I looked on, I had the Muscle and Fitness magazines, and I looked in the back, and in the classified, they had a lot of weird classified stuff back there, but they had one for a personal trainer, and I wrote a check for $5, and I got this personal trainer handbook. So I started there, and then I connected with Ellington Darden, and a lot of his stuff, and a lot, because I always did high intensity training, but I just started navigating that, and the next thing I know, it started taking off. And I remember when I first started, I would always think, will this actually work? And so I'm about maybe 6 months into it, and we're going to take a vacation. And I'm kind of panicked. I'm like going, man, this is my only source of income, and I'm going to take a vacation. I wonder if people are going to, be here when I get back. And so when I was gone, I was getting phone calls of people like, hey, when are you coming back? I missed my workouts. So I knew I was onto something. And yeah, so from there, I just started refining my approach to what I thought would be best. And when I first started, it was like, hey, you got to, train people and bury them and, that kind of thing. Which, still to this day, you might get one or two like that, but not everyone you want to train like that. And so once again, I just started using the same principles, but applying them across the board to different people based on their age, their recovery ability. And then over time, too, I've trained a lot of athletes. I still train a lot of like jujitsu people. And I try to explain to them about the recovery factor. Like you said, you go in, you're training jujitsu 5 days a week. You're not going to lift 5 days a week, too. You have to adapt to that. So, just training people and figuring things out. And so it's become just I have a really good business model. I'm very thankful for what I have.
No, that's awesome. And I'd love to maybe have you on again in the future because I'm super interested to hear about that garage gym model because that's something I've actually thought about just to dip my toe in the water of like, how could I create something in the community, open it up? And obviously it transitioned into personal training, but we've been on some of the same forums and stuff before. And we obviously both know Lawrence and, he's the one that introduced us and, that idea of kind of branching in slowly, right? The how do you get your foot in the door? So I'd love to pick your brain on that at another time.
I'll give you one quick tip. I'll give you one quick tip on that.
Yeah, please.
So back then, I had to get a business license. I'm in a residential area.
Okay.
So I have to send out a letter to anyone in the community that, hey, we're going to open a business here. Well, my next door neighbor, I had two older ladies, and one of them was super crabby. She went to the business meeting and she was trying to get me blocked from having a business license. Well, they all voted and, they just all voted for the business. And I had 50 monthly members. So you got my driveway, all the parking on the streets taken.
Yeah.
So it was, I can understand their complaints, but, I'm just running a business back then. So that was a big no back then, but, spacing it out right. But like you said, it did morph into something better.
Yeah, that's cool. And, just to have that side business as well is obviously intriguing. So if somebody asked you about that knew nothing about fitness, or maybe this is kind of your elevator pitch when somebody first comes in the door, maybe they read your book, maybe they have no idea who you are, they're just a referral. How would you describe your studio? What's your sort of elevator pitch that you give to people?
Like when they come in the door?
Yeah.
So
or if maybe you meet somebody at a men's retreat or something.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Steve, what do you do?
Yeah. So how I explain that is I just explain it like this. I have a one-to-one private personal fitness training boutique style studio. That's the words that I used with that. And then I explained that, hey, it's not a big box gym. It's you are in with the trainer. It's only you and the trainer in at the same time. So that's kind of a major selling point. I would like to, because I've talked to different people who have more than one trainer, but I have about 750 square feet. Like I said, my big thing is that one-to-one private is really important for people. So that's kind of my selling point. But that's how I just describe it. I just describe it. And then when they come in, I kind of tell them what I do. And I don't sell programs per se. What I do is I describe benefits. And I just talk about the benefits. And that kind of sells itself, especially after you give them a workout.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. I didn't realize your footprint was so small too. I think, if you have the time, I'd love to have you on for a separate conversation entirely just about kind of creating a boutique small space. One of the things I like to ask my guests on here, Steve, is what is something that you've, especially with high intensity training, obviously, I look at all the research that's coming out in recent years and you see some stuff, I'm sure you've read the Nautilus bulletins. You see stuff that Arthur Jones was talking about 50 years ago that they're now finally validating through scientific studies. What is something that you've changed your mind on maybe in the last 3 to 5 years, whether it's just based on research that's come out, or maybe it's just based on your own personal experience?
Yeah, I'll give you one that's interesting. So I always tried super slow training, right? And I never really connected to that until I joined Drew Bay's website. He's got a high intensity website, and
Yeah, Drew's great.
he's really
He's
smart.
jacked now too.
Yeah, well, he's
competing and
he's openly geared up. He tells exactly what he does, which I love his honesty.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I changed my mind on in the super slow training, now I'm not married to it, but I do a lot of it, is that when I was doing it before, and I don't think a lot of even high intensity training people understand this, but when I was doing it before, it was about how much weight I could lift for a period of time. So I was doing a ton of bracing. And what I call that is machine powerlifting. Does that make sense? Just trying to lift weights and just lift heavy weights. But what I learned from Judy is to use moderately heavy weights and to connect your mind to your muscle and to really isolate that muscle group. That is the most helpful thing that I've learned. The one thing I changed my mind on was how to approach that. Now, I add my own nuances to that as I learn, because if you have good strength training equipment, then your strength curve is going to be pretty good. But if you don't have the best equipment, I have good equipment. But so what I'll do is I'll fatigue the muscle in this range of motion, but there's still a little left on the outside ranges of motion. Yeah. So I'll also fatigue those. So kind of, I'll do super slow, but I'll add a little. Do you remember Brian Johnston? Do you know Brian?
Yeah.
And so, J-reps, fractals, partials. I'll add all of those things in there as well. So it's kind of my mix of a great concept based on my equipment and going from there.
Yeah, and super slow is great, and that's kind of how I cut my teeth as well, was at a traditional super slow facility, and I was lucky enough to have really high-end equipment. So we had Renex stuff, if you're familiar with
Oh my gosh,
Renex.
Are you kidding? Yeah. I'm jealous.
Yeah, some of the OG Ken Hutchins stuff, and it was fantastic. I mean,
now the force curves were perfect across the board.
Yeah, because I mean, you could adjust the cams on the fly as somebody's training, right? So it was absolutely even throughout. So, and that place is still open. It's called Mayo Strong now, or just Mayo Atomic Training or something. It used to be called My Strength Studio, but the gentleman who taught me there, his name is Kevin Ness, and so I learned super slow. Similar experience to what you were talking about with that guy who you brought in for legs. I had done high volume training for forever. I came in, the guy's, I'm interviewing for a job, and he's like, oh, let me put you through a workout. And we do 3 exercises, and I'm on the floor for like 20 minutes afterwards.
Yeah, you're going, holy cow. That's what sells, though.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though.
With super slow specifically, though, I feel like a lot of people in our industry kind of cut their teeth, learned that way. And I'm also a big fan of super slow, but I think there's so many practitioners that unfortunately are using equipment that's not meant for it, and they're so locked into it. I see people using like Nautilus Nitro, which is great. It's really good equipment. It's not the best for super slow. Like, unless you've had somebody come out and, retrofit the cams and stuff, it's probably not going to be the best machine for that. So I think having that adaptability and knowing that, like, you have a foundation in something, but you can be adaptable depending on the types of equipment you have. I'd love to hear more about what you have at your facility. So tell me a little bit about fitness and more. What kind of equipment do you guys have there?
Sure.
What kind of experience can somebody expect when they're coming in for a workout? How many exercises? That type of stuff.
So generally, here's what it looks like. So say I'm bringing a client in for their first workout. So I have a old Nautilus clamshell ab machine.
Very cool. Yeah.
And I've tried a lot of ab machines. Actually, recently went to.
Is that like the Gen 1 where it's like the back here? And yeah, those are great.
And then
got one of those.
The foot pad comes up as well. I really like that. I really do. And I've tried a lot of different.
Too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you can't move it. You just can't move it. But when I was on vacation, I look over and I see a sign. Max Strength Fitness is Jeff Tamazuki.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, holy cow! I'm in Niceville, Florida. I'm like, I had no idea that he had branched out that far. So I went and I got a workout. They had the new Imagine Strength equipment, and it's great equipment. It really is. I didn't connect to the ab machine, but I like my ab machine better than that one. It
Yeah.
still was good, but I just
Yeah,
like
that's
mine
kind of
better.
a MedX knockoff anyways. I was never a big fan of the MedX abs to begin with.
Yeah, I just didn't connect my. It was too much. I don't know. It was too much work for me to connect my abs
Yeah,
there.
to actually connect.
But I
yeah,
got that
totally agree.
Nautilus clamshell, and I start there. Then I have just a standard pull down machine, but I do have a Drew Bay bar. He had a special bar that he designed, and the angle's really good for pull down.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's my second machine. Then I have a chest press. I have a Strive chest press.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah,
The adjustable cam. Yeah,
that's the beauty of that one is you
Yeah.
can adjust that cam, and that really
Yeah.
does make a difference.
I love Strive. You know they're Prime now.
No, I didn't know that. I had looked for them and I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, they went out of business in I think the late 90s or the early 2000s, but somebody bought all their patents. So if you look up Strive, it's all the old Prime, it's all the old Strive stuff. It looks way cooler. Like the white that they had just kind of looked a little tacky, but now it's all black and like a neon green. It's really cool. They make a lot of cool stuff.
Very cool. I'll tell you that in a second. I'm shopping for a new overhead press, but so I have a Strive chest machine. Then I have just an old seated row machine that still works good. I'd like to upgrade that, but man, equipment gets so expensive nowadays. It's crazy. Then I have a Nautilus double shoulder.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But I just sold that literally yesterday. I've had it on eBay for a while. Okay. The reason I sold it is because that machine doesn't work for everyone. I have older people that come in and it's just
heavy, even
it's so heavy.
Yeah.
And how I use that is I have people face in rather than face out. I find that it keeps the shoulders a little more healthy. So that's why I use that. Then I have dumbbell curls next, or a Nautilus. I have a Nautilus bicep curl, probably a first gen. Then I have a Nautilus leg curl, which is the next exercise. A Strive leg press, which really does work well.
I've never actually used the Strive leg press, but I'm a big fan of all the old Strive stuff. So
and you changing the position of your foot of your feet on the foot plate makes a huge difference. I play with that a lot, and then I usually finish people off with a leg extension. If I do like a specific leg workout, I don't know if you are familiar with this, but I have a Frank Zane leg blaster.
Oh yeah, so I've got. Do you know Jesse and Liam at TNT?
Oh yeah, of course. That's where. Liam's my buddy forever.
Yeah, I love Liam. I didn't realize you guys knew each other. I should have figured. He knows everyone, and he's been doing it for so long. I was just talking to him the other day, actually. But they put me through. I did a clinic. We called it a clinical rotation at the old gym that I was at, and I spent the week out there with them training clients and just kind of shadowing them. And they put me on the Frank Zane, and that was it was tough.
Yeah, he had asked me about that. I'm like, oh man, it's a great piece of equipment. Yeah. And that's another one too, where you have to really know the form, because it's not just about lifting heavy there. Yeah. It's about connecting your form.
You don't need very much weight on that one.
No, you can really isolate your legs. But that's basically my workout. Now, I also have a 1-rep gym, which is a time static contraction unit.
Okay.
And with that one, what I have done with it is I connect it. I had an engineer and a computer software person build a little program to where I can connect it to a TV and it's right in front of you.
See it on the screen.
You can see it on the screen, which kind of helps with the intensity. And I train a lot of older people as well. I have clients up in their 80s. Wednesday it's Old Folks Home Day because I have a lot of older people, but it's great. And but I use a lot of the time static contraction with that as well.
I was lucky enough too at that first gym that I was at. So Renex also made a line of static contraction devices.
The eye machines?
Those. Yep. So we had those with the built-in computer screen where you could see it. Actually, the leg press Kevin had both. So it was the actual Renex leg press, but it also had the force display on it. So that was really cool.
Super expensive though.
Yeah.
Those are
I didn't ask any questions on we got it all.
I would think that, I don't know. I know that, just looking, and this is available online, just looking at the new Imagine Strength equipment, you're looking at $5,000 to $7,000 per unit. And so, that's pretty expensive stuff.
Yeah, there's some. We should talk offline at some point about some other brands if you're looking for new machines too, because there's a lot of smaller brands that are coming up as well, that are making really good stuff that's significantly cheaper than a lot of the mainstream brands.
Yeah, I want to
Even
talk
though,
to you about that.
yeah, Imagine is like good if you're looking for medics and you can't afford new medics. But it's priced right about at the same point as like used medics,
Yes.
and it's not as cheap as I originally thought it was going to be with the production in China and stuff. Because we had incorporated some of that at my last job as well, and it's great stuff. But for the price point, I think there's other equipment out there.
Yeah, I'd love to
Um,
talk to you about that for sure.
that's all awesome. So is that always the routine? Like they're doing a similar
No,
routine every single time? No,
no,
okay.
absolutely not.
That's
No.
when somebody first comes in. Okay,
Yep. And
gotcha.
then I've got people that have been with me for 30 years.
Yeah.
So I'm always mixing and matching, but the principles are always going to be the same. High intensity training. Now I'll switch it up to J reps. I'll switch it up to 21s, all those types of intensity techniques as we go through that. And so now, generally I suggest 2 sessions per week with my clients. And so generally I might have an A and a B routine, but
Yeah.
some people want to go in a little different direction. So what I'll do is I'll rotate a chest, shoulders, and triceps, a back and biceps, and a leg, and I'll
Okay.
do that over a period of time. It's not a week, but it's a little longer than that.
Gotcha. And then how many exercises? Because again, your sessions are 15 minutes and they're stacked up like that. So how many exercises are people typically fitting in that time frame?
7, 8 at the
7.
most.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Is it always full body, or you mentioned maybe splitting up the
no, I
focuses?
split it up,
Got
but
it.
I like the full bodies just for overall strength, and you could just really really notice. People get stronger with that. But there's times when I'll switch it up, like today I have a guy that comes in, and he'll come in a couple days a week, but he likes to work arms. So sometimes, like on a Wednesday, I'll start him off with just the abs, and then I'll have bicep curls followed by pull downs, a little pre-exhaust. So I mix and match. I do a little creative in the middle of that, which I really, really enjoy.
That's awesome. Do you ever run into issues with people running behind? I know that was always an issue with even 30-minute sessions. If somebody shows up 10 minutes late, it's like, yeah, 20 minutes is plenty of time to get through a full body workout. But if they do that for you, is it more just let's
Yeah,
reschedule, or
you'd
is it
have to reschedule. You just
got
can't
it?
do it. I had a recent situation where someone came in on the wrong time. It caused me a lot of problems because the guy who came in was upset because somebody's in on his time. Rarely does that happen, but it does
Yeah.
happen. And
Yeah.
so, I have to adjust those things. But I generally, I really do train my clients to be on time. And,
Yeah.
now there are times when maybe there's a train and they're a few minutes late. There might be a little bleed over, which I don't like, but it does happen
Yeah.
on occasion. So,
Yeah.
but it's
And
rare.
and are you just doing in person, Steve, or do you have a virtual option for
I
people
do
as well, like if
virtuals.
they're traveling?
Yeah, I
Okay.
do virtuals. I have clients in Maryland, Alabama. I have them. I have them all over. I just
Okay.
finished a virtual before I got onto this. So
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Okay.
I have a couple of positions out in where Bethesda is, that big hospital,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
they're really cool. But they have always had like really high level trainers that come into their home, and I just found one of the ladies looking for a trainer online, and I just called her randomly, and I explained what we did, and I explained Body by Science. So anyway, she picked that book up and looked at it, and then she read it. And about 9 months later, she called me back. She goes, "Hey, you remember me?" I go, "Yeah, I do." She goes, "I'm going to try your principles. I have a trainer that comes in the home, and she wanted me to do some crazy stuff I wasn't comfortable with, like heavy
Yeah.
bench presses."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, started training her, and they just love it. So she'll
Oh, that's
refer
awesome.
clients to me.
Oh, that's
So
great. Yeah.
yeah,
It's the virtuals have been really cool for us as well for that exact reason. It's like you're getting outside of your area of influence, and it's pretty easy, because obviously when people like what you do, it's they want to tell people about it. But when you're only in person, it's like, well, I have a cousin that's in Bethesda, right? But I can't
yeah,
tell her about you because what is she going to do? She lives somewhere else. So yeah, I
yeah.
think that's great to have that. As far as your philosophy, I'd like to know a little bit about, more how you think about HIT. So, do you still believe after all this time that HIT is the most effective method of training? Obviously, there's a lot of research that's come out in the last few years on volume training and its relation to hypertrophy. So if any of your clients ever come to you and say, oh, I just saw this thing in the New York Times or whatever, how do you kind of approach that?
Yeah. So, the thing with that is, to answer your question directly, yes, I still believe that HIIT is the best way to train. And the reason I believe that is because, number one, it still gets us strong is what we're after. You can still create that hypertrophy in the middle of it based on how you apply the program. But the other part of it is the reduction of injury and the reduction of joint pain. That's the one thing as people age, that's the one thing that I see. I'll have clients coming in and like my joints hurt. I'll have people come in that have been with other trainers that are injured from that type of training. I get that all the time. And so my argument with that stuff is, that's fine. If you want to do that high volume stuff, you can. It's not something I want to do. It's not efficient, in my opinion, and I don't want to spend all day in the gym. And but I just was telling you as we were talking before we got on the podcast, a guy who I knew from years ago, he's in the gym an hour and a half, 5 days a week. My definition of that is a part-time job. And so a lot of times people that use that for social interaction, which I totally understand. And so, but I was explaining to him the efficiency of a workout. So for him, he's more bodybuilder type guy. So what I did was took him through a leg workout. He loved it. He just never felt anything like that. And then I have him scheduled for chest rows and triceps next week. He'll come in and I'll show him how to do that. And then we'll do a back and bicep. That way he'll get all three. And then with a guy like that, what I explained to him is, you recover from exercise pretty well. If you want to continue doing what you're doing, what I would suggest is to do chest rows and triceps on Monday, back and biceps on Wednesday, and legs on Friday.
Yeah, and split it all up.
Split it up, and that gives you still a little more volume, a little more time in the gym if you like that. And then he'll make gains because he's been overtraining. So he'll make gains initially. Yeah. Now, if he gets to the point where he stops making gains, then we'll cut that down. We'll go, hey, let's cut to 2 days a week, keeping the same rotation and see how that works. If that doesn't work, then we'll go upper body, lower body. So there's all kinds of ways that I adapt to that based on the results that people have. But as far as high volume training, some people love that. I find that with a lot of younger people, but older people, they just want to get stronger and then kind of go from there.
And I think people with injuries or older individuals tend to gravitate towards HIIT anyways because of that safety factor too. I did HIIT religiously for 8 years. I mean, I never worked out more than twice a week. Maybe I experimented with like 3 times a week, once or twice. But, when I was at that super slow place, I tried to see how far I could extend it out, like once every 10 days kind of thing. And since I've started virtually, I've actually been going to the gym a little bit more. And my workout takes 40 minutes or something. So it's not crazy high volume or anything. But I've realized the reason I got into strength training was because I liked lifting weights, right? Yes. So I think that's been cool for me too. And applying the principles with a slightly higher volume approach has been really cool to actually get that environment of being in a gym, right? And feeling, the excitement of like all the different machines. Cause I work at a really cool gym. My buddy, that's also, local here has like 120 different machines. So he's got old Strive and Magnum and then he's got new stuff from Mega Mass and he's got a Nautilus. What's the God? Why am I blanking on it? Their leg press. I
know what you're talking about.
Yep. So he's got that, like a vintage version of that, and he's got the old behind the neck from Nautilus. Yes. Like he's got a lot of cool stuff. So, that's been really cool for me. But I think I understand from doing this long enough that most people don't get jazzed up when they go to the gym.
No, absolutely. But you're right. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that, like, for me, I use my strength training for to just kind of so I can stay strong. And I still like doing jujitsu. So I make those things blend together. If I were just doing what you're, like just lifting, I totally understand what you're saying there. You can apply those principles to a little more bodybuilding kind of lifestyle, and it does kind of work from there. The one, like I said, with watching Drew Bay over the years, and and watching what he does. He still stays with the high intensity training and the super slow training, but he has changed his volume based on, what he's looking for in feedback. And I think that's what you have to do. You can't just be locked into one particular thing. However, in the business model, in the world in which I live, in which I work, I'm not looking at more bodybuilding people. I'm looking at people that are 50 plus that are just trying to maintain some strength.
Yeah, build some strength. And they honestly don't have time to have that part-time job like you talked about.
Exactly.
And
that's
for you,
exactly.
again, I mean, it makes sense. You've got other hobbies. And that's how I always pitch it to people. It's like, keep doing your other hobbies. Do them better because you're stronger. And then just give me, an hour of your time each week that we can commit to doing what we're doing. And in your case, it's even less. It's only a half hour each week.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some of the things when you got a new client that comes into you that you get pushed back on from like people starting? Whether it's, is this really enough? What do I do about cardio? What about diet? How do you typically kind of answer some of those main questions that you get from people?
Yeah, so let's go with the cardio one because people ask about cardio. And in my book, I talk about the 3W approach to fitness. That's a big deal for me. And it's weight training, walking, and watching your diet. But if you think about cardio, what I do is I have clients go from one exercise to the next with very little rest. So you're going to have your heart rate's going to be high. But here's the other part of that too. McGuff makes this argument it's either Body by Science or it's just online about cardio doesn't exist. Now, I don't want to make that argument, but I understand what he's saying about stroke volume. And I've read over and over and over again. It took me a long time to understand it. But stroke volume, what they learned came from exercise-induced headaches. I don't know if you've ever read. Yeah.
Ken Hutchins stuff.
Yep. And so Hutchins talks about that. And so for me, I remember when I started training years ago, Tom Platt said, if you work your legs hard, you're going to be healthy, but your upper body's going to grow. And basically what he said is if a trunk of a tree grows, so do the branches. So I always work my legs hard. And what's crazy is my heart rate is excessive. It's extremely low. And I attribute that from proper training over the years and having a very good stroke volume from training. And so I explain that to clients, like the way we train, you're going to stay under the tension for a period of time. And then when you release, you're going to have all this blood released and your body's going to more efficiently pump the blood. So that's kind of how I talk about the heart thing and how it does help. And it really does make a difference for people. If there's any pushback, generally, I kind of understand what the pushback is because it's like foreign for, it's so foreign to what we do. But I explained that early on. I was just saying,
it goes so against what people see and Instagram culture and all of those things. Like, you have to just work harder,
Yep. And the thing is, I always just explain to people, I just say, listen, I'm a 1%er. I go, you can go to 100 trainers and 99 of them are going to tell you different than what I say. And I'm okay with that. And I always joke, I always say, I'm okay with being right and them being wrong. But I'm just joking with them. Once I start the workout, here's what happens. It just happens so often. They'll go through 2, maybe 3 exercises. I go abs, pull down, and they'll get to the chest press where I can see their face. And I can see a smile on their face. I can see that those endorphins are already released. They feel good and they love it. That whole workout sells itself. And so, but the pushback is, how can I get results in 15 minutes? But it takes me 2 or 3 minutes to get them to understand that. And so, that would be the number one pushback. It's just a time factor. But once I explain everything to them, and I explain also, the exercise is a very inefficient way to lose weight. A lot of people come in to lose weight. Like, hey, your dietary practices are the most important thing when it comes to fat loss. Because you don't want just weight loss, you want fat loss. But then they'll come back with, well, when I was younger, I could just run and lose weight. And I'm like, but you're older and running really will break your joints down if you do it too often. So it's not the best thing to do. So I discourage a lot of things that people do and a lot of the practices they do. But it's like you said, you have all these influencers out there. And here's the problem I have with that. The problem is when you're a YouTube guy, you're an influencer person, you have to keep putting content out to get more likes. you basically sell your soul to whatever. And for me, I'm not about that. I'm like, listen, I'm gonna, like I do a lot of public speaking, and I explain, and that's a real big help for my business, by the way, is how I get a lot of clients.
I can
But
imagine.
yeah, but just explaining things to people in that way and letting them understand that, hey, this is a safer, more effective way to work out. It really does. It does help and makes a difference. And like I said, I have people that have been with me for, over 30 years. And so it obviously has its benefits in the middle of that. And so in my business, I'm at that point of almost a waiting list, which I hate to do, but I'm at that point where.
Is it just you at the shop, Steve, or do you
No, I
have
have
others?
three.
Okay.
I have three part-time trainers, and
Gotcha.
so generally, I work Monday morning. I start actually next Monday. I have a new client coming in at 5:30 a.m. But that's the only time I can fit him in. But I'll work generally from 6 to 11 on Monday. Then I have an online in the afternoon. I take Tuesday off. I work pretty much all day Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. My trainers work, and then I do a little work on Saturday. So I have onlines between there, but Wednesday's kind of my long day, and then my trainer, my trainers do a great job. So
That's awesome.
yeah, and I've had where I didn't have great trainers, and that's miserable.
Yeah.
That's a miserable way. That's
well,
really
especially
hard.
from a time efficiency perspective and maintaining clients and all of those things,
Yeah.
which obviously go hand in hand. So tell me a little bit about your book. So it's called The Gospel of Fitness.
Yeah.
How did it come about? Is this your first book, or kind of give me the backstory of how this came to fruition?
The truth is, it's probably my 20th book if you think about it. I'm always writing things, and I'm always researching things. And to be honest with you, I don't know exactly how it came about, other than I just was writing something, and I start putting together in a book form, and I have like a private Facebook group.
Okay.
So I was just going to post it in there if people wanted to buy it, whatever. But it wasn't anything like, I'm going to do this, okay? But then what happened is, I have a guy that I had met at a pastor's conference, and I trained him, and he loved it. He's a fitness guy. He loves to work out. And so he'd have me on his podcast. Well, he's asking me questions one day. His name is Pete. And I said, Pete, I have a book that I'm like 90% done with. And he goes, really? I said, I answer a lot of these questions in the book. He goes, well, that's interesting. He goes, I have a small publishing company. And that's how that came about. So he said, send over what you have. I sent it over. He goes, we'd love to work with you. So I got that all set up and got it out there. And then they set up some Florida book tours for me. So I did a week there. I did some in Missouri. I did a large church in Missouri where there were probably 2,000 people over the weekend there. Yeah, that was really fun. I did, like, you sign books after. I signed books for like 2.5 hours. And I was awesome. Like, it was pretty cool, because you get to hear people's story, and you're helping them a bit as well. And that makes it even more fun. But heck, I got two local speaking engagements coming up where I have books for sale and go from there. So it's been a huge benefit for my business, and just for getting my brand out there. So it just kind of came out, I don't know, it just kind of came out by osmosis, so to speak, So
that's the best way.
It is. And so what I did also, because I am a pastor, I used the name The Gospel of Fitness, and people ask me, well, is it gospel or is it fitness? And my answer is always yes. And so, because I wanted to make it a kind of a subversive name to make people think, but it's not like an overly Christian in your Facebook. It's just how I live my life and how I train clients and how I go about my life as far as health and fitness and the spiritual approach goes. And awesome. But man, it's been so well received. I was just talking to my son about it this morning, and he was asking me, he goes, how many books you've sold? I go, I don't know, man. I'm hoping to get to that 1,000 point. I might be there. I'm not really sure. So average author sells 300 in their first one. And so, and I don't know if I'll write another one. I've had some offers already, though. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we'll see if we go in that direction. If I did, I would. I have a little game plan if I did and how I'd approach that. But we'll see.
You could be the next L. Darden, just recycle the same old material over and over.
That's what he does, and he's
Yeah.
been so successful. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
look over my shoulder. I have almost all of his books, and
Yeah, I have
you
a
know,
bunch of his back there as well. So.
yeah, I actually went to his home,
Okay.
and yeah, I paid money just to have a consultation, with 3-hour consultation. He
Nice.
took me through a workout. He had, equipment in his home, and it was just fun. It was just a blast talking to him, just reliving
Yeah.
old Nautilus days.
I've been to Jim Flanagan's place a couple
Nice.
times. And, yeah, and he's got quite the setup from back in the day as well. Duo
Yeah.
squat. That's what it's called. I don't know
Yeah,
why I was
the
blank
duo.
on that
Yep,
before.
yep,
Yeah.
the duo squad. Yeah,
Because he's got one of those there as well. And there's nothing like getting put through a set of duo squat by Jim Flanagan. I'm sure
well,
the same with
yeah,
L.
yeah, absolutely. I just had seen that. Some Jeff Shaw, I think the guy's name was. He was in one of L's books. He had went and met with them, and they took him through a workout. And so, yeah, I think it was on Darden's forum that they were
Oh, okay.
talking about that. Yeah, so it was
Very
neat
cool.
because the workout, they had all the medics equipment that they used for that. So it's cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. So, in your book, I'd love to kind of give readers an idea of what they can hope to find. Obviously, you mentioned you have some Christian influence in there, but it's not really, you're
Yeah.
not lecturing to people or anything. You talk a lot about aging gracefully.
Yes.
What can readers hope to find in that book? And you mentioned the 3 W's already, but maybe give us kind of an overview of what's in there.
Sure. And the big thing with aging gracefully is understanding that you're aging. And in order to age gracefully, you have to understand that you're aging, and you can't do what you did before. And so you have to adapt to that. But the goal of aging gracefully is to not just allow or let your body age. You fight back against that. And the goal there is to do what you love to do as you age. That's why I still love jujitsu. I still love to do that. I love playing with my grandson. I can do all those things because I kind of take care of myself, and I think that does help. We're all going to age. We're all going to fight battles, but that's the part of aging gracefully that's important. And then when I explain, did you have a question with that?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Then I explain, and I just came up with this years ago. I call it the 3W approach to fitness. And whenever I go and talk, I always tell people to hold up 3 fingers. It makes a W, unless you have a broken jujitsu finger. It makes kind of a half of a W. But it's weight training, walking, and watching your diet. And so obviously the weight training aspect, we just talk about the benefits of what that is. And I explain all the benefits with that. And then I explain I have a home workout in there and a gym workout. And they're both full body workouts, but I give details on how to perform every exercise, what to go, what you're feeling, and then I give all the principles of time under load, of, kind of the rush factor in the middle of it, connecting your mind to muscle. I talk about the things that we fight as we age, which is obviously sarcopenia is number one, which is age-related muscle loss. So I just talk about those things. And then with walking, there was a study, I read this in one of Darden's books years ago, and the study was, and he was talking about fat loss, but what the guy did was measured 3 activities. He measured walking alone, he measured eating and walking, and then he measured walking and eating. And he did a test on how many calories you burn 3 hours after. And he said that eating and walking increased your BMR by 25 to 30%. And so I add that in there because I think it's really, really important. I tell my clients, and even the readers, to walk moderately after dinner, 30 minutes a day. And if you can, to walk outside, take your phone with you if it doesn't distract you, and look around and take pictures of the beauty of creation. That's the way I look at it. There's so many things that we miss. And so, walking with your head up rather than your head down. And sunshine, fresh air is going to help you. And then the watching your diet part, I'm a big count your calories guy. I don't think anything changes. I think you always have to do that. I don't want to be so locked in with that. But you still, you'll hear people say, oh, you don't have to count calories. And I'm like, you really do. You're doing it by osmosis in one way or another, especially when it comes to fat loss. So it's very, very simple. But I also talk about intermittent fasting in there. And I always have loved to do that. Then I talk about small meals throughout the day, whatever fits you. So I just give some options as I'm making a big blanket statement in the middle of that. So trying to take that idea and individualizing it is
That's
what
awesome.
I'm after.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it sounds like something I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to pick up a copy and check it out as well because I like to just see the same. That's why I read most of L's stuff, right? It's like it's the same ideas regurgitated, right? But everybody's got a slightly different perspective, and even
Exactly.
the same person can have a slightly different twist on something if they continue to rewrite it and refine it and all of those
Yep,
things. So I think
absolutely.
that's great, and that's all those points you made. I try to emphasize that to clients, especially my older clients. When we talk a lot about like health span versus lifespan, right? So when
Yes.
I think of aging gracefully, it's like, yeah, I don't necessarily want to live to 100 if I'm in an old folks home and, on a feeding tube, right? I'd rather die at 80,
You're right. And enjoy
running
my
around with
life.
my grandkids or something. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Totally
So
agree
that
with that.
quality of life over the
Over
quantity of
quantity.
life.
Yeah, I
Uh,
got a lot of that from Peter Attia. I read Peter Attia's stuff. He's got the book called Outlive. Now, it's really interesting. As I was listening to an audiobook as I was walking on vacation one time, and I'm listening to his book, and I'm thinking, and I'm listening to his exercise protocol. I'm like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, Pete, you're a chronic overtrainer, bro.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
well, then the next chapter was all the injuries that he had.
Yeah.
And so, it's interesting how people think in the
Yeah,
middle.
Peter's a really interesting guy. I've been following him for a long time, and it's one of those things where I just like when I listen to some of his stuff, specifically about resistance training, because he's so good at painting the picture of what's important.
Yeah.
I think he puts a little too much emphasis on VO2 max, but he's a long-term endurance athlete, so that makes sense. But yeah, then you hear all the stuff he's doing, and it's like you're almost 60, dude. Like, what are you
Dude.
doing?
Yeah, you're breaking your body down and that's why you see a lot of people with the need for TRT or HRT
Yeah,
because not allowing proper recovery, overtraining, and and there's no other way to pick up to say, oh, I got to train more. So in order to do that, I have to increase my testosterone levels or what have you. And to me, that's what I talk about aging gracefully. If you need that stuff, hey man, no problem at all. I understand totally. But if you can avoid it, I think you'd be better off in the long run.
yeah, for sure.
So,
So what if someone is just starting out? What would be the advice you would give them besides coming to work with you?
I would think that, I would explore, like the number one thing, I would explore what I wanted to do, but here would be my number one thing. What is your goal? Because, you'll hear people say, well, I want to lose weight. Well, that's not really a goal. It's really, I need more specific. So what is your goal? I'll give you an example. My daughter-in-law, obviously with a new grandson, it's a lot of work for being a mom. And so I was talking to her, and she tried a few different things. Her body's hurting. And I just said, and what can I do to help you? And she goes, well, I just, I want to balance out all the things from holding my son that is causing my body. I go, okay, listen, that's a good goal. I said, but here, let me help you with the goal. What we need to do is increase your strength. That's the number one thing. And I said, I was just talking to her yesterday. I said, so tomorrow, you have to understand, you have one of the best trainers in the world waiting for you when you come into the gym. And I said, and so tomorrow when you come in, we know your goal. So I want you to come in with the attitude of because strength is not given. Strength
Yeah,
has to be taken.
yeah,
And so I said, you're going to come in with the attitude, you're going to come in and work hard. And so that's the number one thing is what is your goal? Then we can apply to what the program to what is needed. Most people, I want to look better. I want to feel better.
yeah.
That's really what you're going to get.
When
And
it
so,
boils down to it, yeah.
yep. And I push those goals a little bit deeper, but that's the whole idea behind it.
Nice. So if somebody's interested in reading the book, where can they find it? What's the best place for them to get it?
Amazon's probably the easiest place to get it. It's on
Okay,
Amazon right there. By the way,
gotcha.
we killed it early on. We went to number 1 and 2 categories.
Oh,
It
that's
was
awesome.
amazing. Yeah, it was crazy. And I
That's
noticed
really
that
cool.
every time I would do a public speaking thing, we'd shoot back to number
Get a
1.
spike.
I'd get these
Nice.
spikes in it. If you have a really good book, though, people begin to tell everybody, and then you're there all the time. But hey,
Yeah,
as a new author, I'm more than happy. I'm so thankful for being able to
yeah.
do that. Because Amazon,
That's
yeah, is the best place to find it.
That's really cool. And again, for anybody who's interested, the book is The Gospel of Fitness. So definitely check that out. Well, Steve, I want to be sensitive to your time here. Just to kind of recap everything, obviously Fitness and More is your studio. Can we expect to see more locations in the future? Do you have any aspirations of branching out or
I
expanding your
don't.
business?
It's just my time is so.
Yeah.
It's like I'm running a church and I have a pretty good congregation. There are a couple hundred people. It's hard to keep up with that. And then the gym. But man, the model works so well. The thoughts in my mind, but it would just take the right person, the right connection to do something like that. But man, I have all the things in place, that would make a successful business model.
Yeah. And it's cool to see so many places that are pursuing that. I'll be interested to see, if it's almost, there's only a few, like I think
Discover
Inform,
Strength.
obviously, Discover Strength, Jeff's place, so Max Strength is doing a bunch. So we'll see. Hopefully they don't there's obviously a lot of people out there, right? So I don't think they're going to oversaturate the market, but finding the right places where they can put locations, because obviously it's not as easy of a sell as like a group fitness class or something.
It's
a lot of people just are fairly obvious of that because there's Orange Theory and insert 20 different, F45, all those different places. So I think it might be an uphill battle for some of those studios, but I hope they get some traction and, maybe that'll make sense to see some more Fitness and More in the future.
Yeah.
As far as
absolutely.
Gospel of Fitness, obviously, simple book, great message for health and longevity. I think it's definitely worth adding to everyone's collection. If people are learning more about you or your business, or if they want to reach out, if they're interested in asking you something, what's the best way to contact you?
My website is fitnessandmore.net, and there's an intro workout on that one, and people can just fill that out, and we can chat from there. Instagram, Steve McKinney Fitness, and YouTube, I'm Steve McKinney Fitness. Nothing big on YouTube. What I do with my YouTube channel is I film rehab exercises for my clients, and then when people say, "Oh, I have a back injury," I'll say, "Oh, let me send you this." So they're already filmed in the middle of that.
That's
that's
smart,
what I use that. Yeah,
okay,
and that's super
great.
helpful. So, and obviously Facebook, I'm Steve McKinney on that one as well.
That's awesome. Steve, anything else to add before I let you go today?
No, hey, great interview. You do a great job. I super appreciate it, man. Excellent, excellent.
This was great. I was looking forward to this conversation, and you're a really enthusiastic guy, and I can see why.
Well, I've been on podcasts in London, India, all kinds of places, and some of them are super fun. Some of them not so much, but this one's a great one. So I appreciate you,
thanks,
man. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that.
Pleasure.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. It's my pleasure, Steve. Thanks for taking the time, and make sure you like and subscribe, and we will see you all again soon. Thanks so much.